Hi, this is Shelley Kraft. We're coming to you live on SNN Live. We're coming to you from the International Stock Exchange Executives Emeriti here in lovely Madiera, Portugal. With me is Mr. Steve Shelton, Cornerstone Global Group and luncheon speaker and a member of the ISEEE. Steve, welcome to SNN Live.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on, Shelley.
My pleasure. Steve, you presented a very, very interesting report at lunch. Please tell our audience what that was about.
Well, basically what it's saying is that there is order in terms of the economic environment, and that really what we're seeing today is a result of something that really began perhaps in 60, 70 years ago, and it's coming full circle. So we would anticipate that we would see a change in the economic environment to the positive at some point in the near future.
So what do we take away from almost a lesson in technical analysis that you gave?
Basically, is whatever the trend is currently in terms of the length of your trend and your investment horizon, is stay with that trend until that trend ends, because no one really knows fundamentally or technically what is going to occur. But certainly the market knows, because the market makes these various trends. So once that ends, then you exit and take a position perhaps in the opposite direction.
So when someone is trading one of the four, how does your analysis have an impact on what they should do next?
In terms of trading, we're talking day, weekly, daily?
I knew you were going to ask me that. Well, which one is the most popular one to comment on?
If you're a pension fund, it's really you want to stay in the direction of the major trend, which could be yearly, quite frankly. But if you're the kind of trader that's working, say, just the day trade, you're looking at 5-minute bars, 15-minute bars. Therefore, you would just be in and out in the same day. You would go for very, very, very short-term trends. But for the individual investor, frankly, it's really about the intermediate-term trends, the daily, the weekly. But it really depends on the risk profile of the individual, and what I find is everyone's willing to take risk until they lose money, and all of a sudden they're risk adverse. So my advice is consider how you felt the last time you lost money in the markets and judge your position accordingly.
What do you do at Cornerstone?
I really provide technical analysis, really global macro trends to institutions who want an unbiased and sometimes a controversial viewpoint to balance off their fundamental viewpoint. And the more input one can have, the more optimal the decision making is, whether it be a businessman, an asset manager, or a marketeer.
You know, one of the things that I remember from the market is when you listen, read, or watch someone from the market that has a commentary on a technological improvement in the way you look at things, it's always good to at least get that opinion. Do you agree?
Well, all the opinions are great, but in the end, it's going to be the price.
Okay, speaking of price, which is a good segue. So if someone came to you for information, how would they come to you? What's your website?
It's www.cornerstoneglobalgroup.com.
And someone who's interested in knowing as much as you could tell them, go to the website first. If you want to speak to Steve a little bit more, I think you can reach him, right?
Yes, on the website there is a appropriate area where you can actually send an email, and we will respond accordingly.
Do you publish a newsletter?
Yes, I do. It really is institutionally oriented, and it's it's not mass marketed. It's very much for those few who really want a very discerning view of what's transpiring in the markets, and maybe don't believe, but want to believe.
Well, we always had controversy on the street between fundamentalism and your technical abilities. Not you personally, but technical versus fundamental. Do me a favor, for the audience, just give a rundown on the difference between the two.
Well, technical analysis is really something that typically precedes the fundamental analysis. Technicals really means that you look at daily price, and daily price, which you connect the dots, creates a trend, and that trend is affirmed by the volume, and also that particular trend has reoccurring patterns. The fundamental approach just comes from the opposite direction, which really makes it ideal to combine the two. They look at earnings estimates. They look at why price should be what it is. And they look at something then being undervalued or overvalued. Whereas technical analysis doesn't look at that. It just looks at the end result.
Ladies and gentlemen, you no longer have to go to Wikipedia for the definition of the difference between technical and fundamental, because you just got it from Steve Shelton. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at the International Stock Exchange Executives Emeriti here in Madiera, Portugal. I have with me Steve Shelton from Cornerstone Global. Website one more time?
CornerstoneGlobalGroup.com.
I want to thank you for coming on to SNN Live. My pleasure to have you.
Yes, thank you.